and I'd be hoarding markers in the room.
When did you make the jump into the comic industry?
The comic industry? Well, I went to the Hubert School, and I sure miss Joe already. So that was my professional training. It's good to keep in mind it was a lot easier to get your comics looked at pre 9/11, and at the same time it's harder because now you can go online, you can post your stuff online, and editors can look at it that way. But the way I did it is I went into New York City with my dad, and I would just call up like DC or Marvel and say, find an editor and go, hey, I'm from out of town, but I'm in town for the day. Can I come in and show my stuff? And they'd be like, all right, if you're only in for the day, come. And I was only an hour out of the city. But technically, that's from out of town. And
yeah, let's don't take that advice.
You can't do that anymore. Yeah, I just call up and say, and they would say, yeah, come and show your portfolio. I'd have my portfolio with me, and I did that about 6 times before they finally hired me for something. And but you can't do that anymore.
Coming in from out of town every other week.
Exactly. Well, once they got to know me, they're like, okay, come back. But yeah, now they have like guards posted down. The DC, they have to leave your name. You have to leave my name.
We have different policies for looking at portfolios now.
Yeah.
You guys probably know it. We have at certain conventions throughout the year there are talent searches where you can submit portfolios for review by the editors, and then if there's something that we like, something that we see, we set up a meeting with you during that convention. We'll do that in New York. We'll do that in San Diego. We'll do that at a couple of other conventions. Unfortunately, we don't do it in Toronto. Against Toronto. We just don't have that many editors here, which is why they have a talent relations guy doing the drawing panel. Francis, how did you start into comics?
Well, I read comics when I was a kid. I guess it was mostly to learn how to speak English. Yeah. And then the comics back then sort of just looked okay. I just remember one of the first comics I remember reading was like Superman, and he had a beard, and he had no powers, and it was really confusing. And then after that, it never really drew me to want to become an artist. But then I saw a comic book with Captain America, Black Widow, and Wolverine that Jim Lee drew. And, when I saw it, it just blew my mind. I didn't know comics could look that cool. So from then on, it just became such a driving force in my life that I just started, developing my portfolio when I was about like 15 or so, right? So that's why I was able to get in fairly early.
And what was the first, the first professional gig, the breakthrough into the actual industry? Because that's always the hardest part.
There's a lot. There's a lot of stops and starts, right? Like the first printed book that I did was this short story in this anthology book called Love in Tights. It was like a romantic comedy thing, and it was terrible. It was really, really bad. It didn't get me anymore.
I think I used to have that.
You did?
Yeah.
What was it called?
It was called Love in Tights.
Love in Tights.
Yeah. Or maybe it was Love and Tights. I don't remember.
Love in Tights?
It might have been Love and Tights. I'm not.
There was love and there was tights. Okay.
Anyways, it was horrible. It was horrible. And then after that, I did more horrible stuff. I think my first paid gig was for this like little mini comic for this toy, and what happened was I had this portfolio sitting in the Top Cow office where I drew all these robots, right? And they got this account to do these little comics for these toy cars, and I've never drawn cars in my entire life, but they figured, hey, this guy draws robots, maybe he could do cars. So they called me like, hey, do you know how to draw cars? I said, I absolutely do.
Why, yes, I do.
And then they're like, all right, well, here's the project, but you have to finish these 16 pages, I believe, in a week and a half. So I said, yeah, I could do that. And conveniently, though, at the time, I was working for Auto Trader magazine. So I just took a bunch of magazines from work, and I learned how to draw cars. while I was getting paid doing it, which was amazing. You know, it didn't exactly lead me to other work, but what it did do was it established a connection with editors in that office. And you know, after that, I showed them my portfolio for work when I did have more time. And you know, it was one of those things where I just kept showing the same people my work, and then I guess they just saw progress. And then after that, my very, very first, finally, comic book that I would say was professional was this video game tie-in for Top Cow. And I remember the morning I started getting phone calls from my friends. They're like, "Oh, congratulations!" And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" And apparently, in the Diamond, because you know all my friends, they buy the Diamond catalog because we like looking at the covers and stuff. And they're like, "Oh yeah, congratulations on this book that you got." I'm like, I did? And what happened was they gave me the job, but they forgot to call me to tell me that I got it. But after that, I've been working ever since. You know, so that was a good happy accident.
Fear Effect.
Yeah,
I have that
that
issue.
was the one. It was also terrible. But not as terrible as the other ones.
The drawing was still good.
Oh, well, thanks.
Okay, let's, who
Have
else has a
questionable
question?
taste.
You there, in the blue. Did you guys hear that?
Without any restrictions? Well, you know, the thing is that editors don't really restrain us from how to draw characters. They restrain us on which characters we can and can't use. No, I mean, essentially, especially for a character like the Flash, what I try to express is fluidity. You know, I think I try to do it that way in terms of the line work by keeping it sort of loose and you know, it's almost like kung fu style, like some water. You know, you gotta just let it flow, and it's more about the gesture sometimes than the actual you know, line work on it. So I just try to get more of the gesture of the body and the attitude. You know?
Tony, what about you?
What was the question?
Can you repeat the question for Tony?
When I'm drawing, well, for me, it depends on what needs to be conveyed inside the panel. So, if the character, you know, you're basically going by the story. Whether they're sad or happy or supposed to be dynamic or whatever. So for me, I like to do a lot of facial expressions and things like that. That's very, very important. And body language is very important, and I like to observe people. I think most artists are people watchers, right? So I like to just sit down sometimes especially when I'm eating lunch, I like to have a seat where I can watch people walk by or congregate or whatever, and I just watch people and I think, yeah, it is kind of creepy, but only if it's a hot chick, and I only when I start taking pictures and you know, things like that.
I was going to say, do you do a lot of photography?
I have taken
reference
pictures that
or sketching?
it's usually of like hot chicks. I mean, well, when I was in Paris like a month ago, I mean, there was some beautiful pedestrians walking around, and I just had fun. I was with some other guys, and we had a few drinks. And I even took some nice pictures out of the bus we were riding in. So there was this one girl on a bicycle. It's on my Facebook. I don't know if you've seen it. She was hot.
Okay, check out if you want.
Okay, so long story short. No, seriously, in all seriousness, yeah, I do like the people. Well, this guy got me going on this rampage here with the being perverted or creepy comment. But yeah, no, totally. I love the people watch, and I can pick up things. You know, the way people are. You know, especially like a week ago, I saw like a couple fighting in the middle of the street. Like you could tell that the woman was giving this guy the riot act, and it was just so funny to watch. I couldn't hear a word they were saying, but I could just see the lady just going off on this guy, and he was just shrugging his shoulders, nodding his head, looking at his shoes, and it's like stuff like that you remember. So if you ever need that in a comic book, you know, it's just it's like exactly. You know, it's like your brain is like a computer, and you can kind of file it away and use it subconsciously. So there we go.
Okay, front row.
It's for everybody. Do you like drawing outside of like doing it professionally? Like when you when you don't have a book you're doing, do you like sit outside and just like sketch and stuff like that, or do you just take a break from drawing because you're doing it so much?
I love to do that kind of work. Like I like to paint, like oil paint and stuff like that. But I have a very busy life because I also have 2 little kids and a wife and a lot of demands and things like that. So it's, you know, when I'm not working, it's like, phew, I need to take a break. But I would love to have the opportunity to have that kind of free time where I can just sit back and do some paint. And, you know, now I'm not writing anymore. I'm just going to be doing the art. That's one of the things I wanted to devote a little bit more time to, doing personal art for myself and, you know, personal writing and things like that. So I'll turn the mic over.
Yeah, I don't draw at all outside of this. Yeah. It's not so much that I don't like to. It's more like I'm getting to write and draw the character that I like. So outside of it, I feel like the desire's not as much anymore. I mean, it's funny. You know, if you ever follow my blog, you'll find that I post a lot of sketches when I'm working on a book that I hate. That's how you can tell I'm not enjoying the book I'm working on. You know, but
You got that, Larry?
Yeah, I got that.
yeah.
If you ever want off the book, just start doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very strong hint. But yeah, like Tony said, you know, I mean, the thing is that what we're doing started out as a hobby and it just became a profession, right? So outside of it, it sounds cheesy, but we really are getting to do what we like to do. So, you know, I mean, obviously, aside from wanting to do personal projects, you know, outside of the studio, I try to, you know, just live a normal life. You know, you just sometimes you need a break from art, just to get your head straight when you go back to it. You know.
Who else? Go ahead.
My question is for Tony and Francis. You guys were to swap books with each other. How would your art style change?
That's a good question.
Well, I don't know if my art would change much. I think it would, you know, Batman would just allow me to play more with dark shadows, you know, because Flash is a very light book, you know, and it's very, you know, we're trying to give the story a very optimistic feel, and I try to give the art that same sort of feeling, you know, and I think with a character like Batman, I think it would really allow me to push my darker tones even more. So I think I don't really think it would be more of an adjustment. You know, I find that, you know, as an artist, you know, we really enjoy sometimes doing things that are outside of our comfort zone that will push us.
Well, you know, every book I try to accommodate what I think is best for that particular either storyline or